But mental health issues, I can't say I really experienced, but I've seen other people experience it, like depression and anxiety and stuff. And I know like it can cause you to like act a certain way in your work, whether it's the workforce or we playing sports, whatever you're doing, mental health issues, it can mess with you. So I feel like some solutions to mental health issues is working out. That helps for me a lot. When I work out, I feel like my head space is clear after I work out. Talking to people, consulting with people, like talking about your issues and finding like resolutions and how you can solve your problems and mental health issues. Having a mentor, I feel like that's big. Somebody you look up to that you can talk to and bring your problems to and get stuff off. I feel like that's very important. Depression, I feel like nobody should go through that. I feel like depression isn't real. It's just all made up in your head and what you believe. I feel like if you have a positive outlook on life, I don't think you should be depressed or have any anxiety. If you look at everything positive and look at it in a good way, even if something bad happened to you, you look at it in a good way and you take it with a grain of salt and you just say like, hey, maybe that's a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Like, say you get fired from your job and you planned on working somewhere else or doing something else on your own. You can look at that as it's just a blessing in the sky. Instead of getting mad, getting depressed, getting in your feelings, you know what I'm saying, getting anxiety, wondering where you're going to get your next dollar. You can just look at that as a blessing. I just feel like it's all about how you look at things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even if we're not depressed or anxious or we're not going through a mental health challenge, we all have mental health. And it's something that even
That's
if we're
something that
not low or even
everybody
if we're
goes
not
through, everybody, no matter who you is.
exactly.
I just feel like it's a how we deal with it. You know what I'm saying? It's how we deal with it. That's how we get over it. It's how we deal with it. I feel like everybody that have mental health issues should have like one big community, like how we doing now and talking. I feel like that'd be good. I know that can't happen with everybody in the world, but I just feel like it should be, you know what I'm saying, addressed more. I feel like it is a big issue. And race-wise, I know like going on now, it's a lot of police brutality and stuff. But like I said, I haven't experienced any racial issues, but I know police brutality is real big. I just feel like all that can be like nipped in the bud with communication. If everybody had an understanding, you know, like if the police understood what this community goes through on a daily basis and this community understood the police job, I feel like it all could be nipped in the bud if everyone was on the same accord, everyone was on the same page, and we all had one ending goal. I feel like all that can be resolved and we can move forward in a you know better way.
I think you're spot on, and a lot of this comes down to communication, just for anything in life, but especially something like this. I feel like if people communicated more,
just like with what just happened on the last Zoom call. I don't mean to go back in the past. That popped up. I could have gotten my feelings about that, came on here and not talked to you guys regular or something like that. But my mental space was in the right space. I can go through that and come back and talk to y'all regular and say how I feel. You know, it's all about how you handle situations. You know what I'm saying? Especially growing up where I come from, you know, you're gonna go through stuff. That's life. You go through stuff. You hit obstacles. You hit bumps, but you got to keep going. You know, you can't let it stop you. Even like with me in my situation, I went through things in high school. I don't have to speak on it, you know. I went through things in college where it could have stopped me on my path. I could have gave up. I could have let my mental health issues or my depression or my anxiety because I'm not where I want to be in life. I could have let it stop me, but I didn't. I talked to God, my spiritual being, you know, my God that I believe in, whatever God that everybody believes, it doesn't really matter. I talked to him and I got some understanding and I worked out and I started working on my mental health and like I started changing my mindset and how I think about things. So I feel like that, like mental health is not, it's an issue, it's a real big issue, but it can be resolved. It's all about how you look at things. And and talk. You gotta talk. You can't hold stuff in. You hold stuff in, you always gonna have mental health issues. You hold stuff in. You gotta talk about it. You gotta let it go. It doesn't matter what it is. Like just at work, if you got a problem with something, you talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Use your voice. You got a voice. Talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're spot on. I think it is true, because the more you talk about your feelings, like it might seem weird or you might not feel comfortable, but I think the more you talk about your feelings about all different topics that relate to you, I think the more you can start to learn how to help it and help yourself.
How to deal with mental health issues, how to overcome them.
Thank you so much.
With that is just, I think that the more you communicate with other people, you realize you're not alone, and other people, if they may not share exactly how you're feeling, they can empathize with how you're feeling, and you just feel more connected. And
empathize with these nuts.
It's all about building a bond. That's just like all of us today. I didn't know any of you guys from a can of paint, but after this call, I'm gonna feel like I'm connected with you guys, because we all was on the video call. I seen you guys' faces. We communicated with each other. So you guys are like family to me now.
Your idea.
If you get what I'm saying. Mental health is the same. All it is communication. Expressing how we feel. That's it.
Sorry to interrupt, but if any of you have dogs, the best way to get really close with them is slather your genitals in peanut butter and just let them lick it off.
Thanks so much, Kwanzi. That was great. Communication is key. And Don, thanks so much for chiming in. So next is Josh. Josh was the winner of Big Brother, and super proud of his heritage. And just kind of tell us a little bit about your mental health and some of the challenges you experienced and how you deal on a daily basis.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Can you hear me good? Cool.
No.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
So a little background. Hey, how's it going? So a little background on me. I've done reality TV for the past 3 going on 4 years. And just being kind of in the public eye and doing TV, it's a lot. You deal with a lot of judgment and just constant social media negativity. And to be real with you, I agree kind of with the last person that was talking, all the things that he agreed, like having a positive perspective and all that stuff. But when it's out of your control, when you're dealing with that constant negativity because of your kind of career and you're, with TV, you're exposing yourself to the public. So you're receiving all the people's judgments. It's hard to try to stay always with a positive perspective. I have struggled with anxiety and with depression. And I think that with me, the one thing is kind of just feeling your feelings and being real and open with how you feel. But also, I completely agree with just, you have to choose if you let it affect you or not, if you're going to let that break you or not. And things that have helped me kind of navigate my career and dealing with negativity is surrounding myself with good people, building healthy habits like working out and doing things that make me happy, and just talking about my feelings. I'm very expressive of how I feel and my emotions and all of that. And I think that being vulnerable and being open and genuine about the struggles that I'm going with allows me to empathize and relate and connect with people that are going through the same things. And with my platform and being on TV, doing that, I feel like people are able to connect and see that they're not alone in whatever struggles they're going through. So yeah, a little deep, but I think that everybody goes through things, and it's just the perspective and how you deal with things. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Josh.
Yeah.
No, and it was not too deep at all. We like that kind of stuff. That's what we want here.
Yeah.
We're in a safe place, and we appreciate it.
I love that. Yeah.
And I love how you use your platform. I think it's important, because a lot of people feel alone, and just maybe sometimes seeing something you're talking about or something you're posting might all of a sudden make that one person make that switch and realize they aren't alone.
Yeah. No, of course. And
that was perfect.
Yeah. I think that thank you. I think that that's one thing that, I've gotten a lot of negativity based on my emotions and being so vulnerable and being so emotional and all that stuff. But I'm I've gotten to the point at 27 years old as a man and just within my career where I truly don't care, because I'm showing like the real me, and I'm showing you know, even though within reality TV they don't show that side, it's somebody that is struggling with anxiety, and I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. And I think that the stigma that anxiety has is that it makes you a weaker person, or it makes you somebody that's not as, you know, as strong as others. But the reality is that that's not true. It's just something that you gotta kind of gotta cope with and figure out, and you know, something that you deal with. And I just think that the more people that talk about their anxiety and talk about their struggles, it normalizes it more, and it makes it more, if not relatable, just, you know, people are able to feel like they're not alone, and it's normal to go through things. It's normal to go through emotions and go through struggles. It's like, you know, my boy said before, when he was talking, I related so much. It's kind of just having a positive perspective and knowing that you're going to get through it, and that's not your final phase or your final stage, or like what you're feeling in that moment. It's not where you're going to end up. There is going to be better days, and there is going to be, you know, I feel like I'm preaching right now, but I just feel really passionate about this. Like, yeah.
Go
Yeah, no,
ahead.
I loved, honestly, I loved, Kwanzi, I've honestly loved everything you said, because I couldn't relate more. And I feel like my family kind of raised me like that, to be very strong-minded and not let anything, not let the world or not anything break you, but you know, also don't be afraid to show your emotions and be real. You know, there's nothing wrong with that either. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Amen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alexa, if you don't mind, I'm gonna piggyback on that. I just wanted to introduce myself, because I feel like I keep interrupting. But I'm a licensed mental health counselor. So if you all have any questions, but Josh, just how you use your platform and, you know, and reacting that way is, I think, something we all can remember. And I know Zach talks a lot about this, you know, that you're not your thoughts, and it's, you know, we don't have any control over what the things are happening around us, but we always have control over how we choose to react to them. And, you know, to choose to acknowledge that anxiety and to move on, or to choose to allow yourself to be emotional, you know, that we do have choices. We do have the ability to make those choices for ourselves. So, so it helps you feel a little bit more in control when everything else around you is out of control, that you can still control how you're thinking and how you want to react to a situation. So
Agree. I completely agree.
Josh.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Thanks, Son. Think someone's saying hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Amy. What's up, guys?
So actually what we're going to do right now for the next 10 or so minutes, you guys can type in the chat your name. And we're going to start having our little group chat for a few minutes where you guys can each share your story before we move into our next speaker. It will be Terry and Dustin. All right. First up is Adrian. You'll have like 2 minutes to share your message, and then we'll go to someone else before we start with our next group of speakers. So your turn, Adrian.
Okay, just by myself. I'm Adrian, and
Hi, Adrian. What do you want to share?
Hey, Alexa, why don't we have all the speakers talk, and then they can type when they have questions, and we can do the questions at the end.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to go on to Terry Foster then.
Okay. 4 years ago, I had a stroke. So I'm in the hospital. We're not quite sure how things are going to go, but I want to put you into the mindset of my daughter. At the time that I had a stroke, she was applying for colleges and universities across the country. And so she was asked a question to write on her college essay. What do you fear most? Now, mind you, her dad is in the hospital with a stroke, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen. She said her biggest fear was that her dad or her brother would meet the wrong policeman at the wrong time and get shot. That was her biggest fear in life because she loved it so much. And so she fought and struggled with that for most of her life because she didn't want to see anything happen to us. And I had to talk with my son. What do you do when you're stopped by the police? And when I was explaining it to him, I thought he was clowning around so much. So I shot him just to teach him a lesson. So 2 weeks after I shot him, he actually did get stopped by the police. And he was, yes, sir, no, sir. He followed the rules. And he said it was actually a good experience. So, but I think part of that was I was rough with him. I pretended to be a police officer and stopped him. I thought he was being an asshole, so I shot him. So, but that was my daughter's biggest fear. And that was, she went through a lot of the anxiety because of that, because of her fears. And she ended up writing a really good paper. But when your dad is sick and this is still your number one fear, that says there's something wrong with our system. The second thing I want to talk about is I get frustrated with some white people. Not everybody, but you could tell a white person, hey, you know what? Some Martians landed in my backyard and tore up my lawn. And they would be like, really? What time did this happen? They'd be all into it. Then you can tell them an old white person called me a nigger and they're like, prove it. I don't believe that. Because I think what's happened is a lot of people, I wouldn't do it. So if I wouldn't do it, nobody else would do it. And I brought this up a few weeks ago. It was probably about 3 years ago. I stopped into this bar and this old white guy, he had to be like 110 years old. He just felt comfortable with me for some reason. He said, you know what? I don't like niggers. And I turned to him. Normally I would just go off, but he caught me in a weird mood. And I said, I'm going to fight this with hunger, with humor. And I said, you know what? Neither do I. And if you see one, tell me where he is or, show him to me. And so there was another black guy at the bar. I kind of winked at him and everything. He kind of knew what I was doing. And then the old man started getting really apologetic. I'm not racist. This isn't me. I don't know what overcame me and all this stuff. But I think the reason that I personally get frustrated talking with race is because if you bring it up to white people, they want to shut it down immediately. Why you want to talk about this? Why is everything about race? No. We're going through things that you are not. And it does affect us. And maybe you don't care, but I do. But I've just run into that so many times where I don't want to talk about it. It's not important. You're over, exaggerating. Get over it. We're not like that. And you may not be, but it doesn't mean the other person across the street is not like that. And I think that's the thing that we need to understand about racism and race and everything. Yeah, it's not you, but there's somebody else that's being a jerk out there, and you need to check them sometime. That's all I got.
I love that. Thank you. And those are some really good, and you have some great stories. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the movie The Hate U Give. It's like, I think it's like Thug Life. It's really good. It talked a lot about like what Terry talked about with like the police, and the father like taught them all what they're supposed to do. And it was just like heartbreaking, like that they have to learn that just because of the skin. And I think it is all about education, and there's so much more we can learn. And I think this stuff, a meeting like this is just the start. So thank you guys for participating, and thank you, Terry. And now we're going to Dustin, followed by Kemi.
All right. Just to continue what Terry said, like I'm from a very small country town, Southern Illinois. I'm biracial. My dad's black, my mom's white. So I always felt like I was right in the middle of race. I couldn't escape it. It was always around me, and I had to deal with certain things. And I know that I had a certain privilege too. And going through like 2020 of everything going on, I learned that me myself, I've had also privilege of being like a light-skinned black man, and it's just going through these things, educating yourself on these things and trying to educate other people and understanding some people don't want to know, you'll find people that aren't really interested in, they like black culture, but they don't like black history. And it's like, they go hand in hand. But yeah, I won't tap too much into that. It gets a little deep. I will say, watch the movie American Skin. American Skin is a great movie. It just came out. It talks about what Terry talked about with the police officer and people getting pulled over, black people getting pulled over. Great movie. Highly recommend it. But also to go on that, in my hometown, I had no black representation of like someone to look up to. Everyone that was black in my community never really had dreams unless it was sports, and they normally died early. They just had no goals or ambitions, which was sad because that's you want to look up to someone that's like you, that's doing great things. So yeah, to touch on that point. But anyways, the mental health. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. A little nervous. For mental health, I think, Alexa, we talked about this before. You have to train your mental health, everybody, every day. You have to condition it. Because if you don't, your brain will go crazy. It'll go wherever it wants, negative thoughts. I know every day I have to condition my brain to, one, give appreciation, gratitude for what I have, even if it's for just breathing air. I don't know if you haven't had to have breath of air in like a minute or two, but it's the worst feeling ever. So just breathing, appreciation for breathing is beautiful. For life, living, everything, just give gratitude. The second thing is pepping yourself up. Negative thoughts come in our heads and that bring us down. I've known like me growing up, I never thought I could do anything. Be an entrepreneur, never would have thought I would have been an entrepreneur. I never would have thought I could have played college basketball. In my brain, my mind, I've always just torn myself down like, you're not good enough, Dustin. There's no way you can do that. So take time every day to tell yourself, you can do this. You 100% can do this. There's no reason why you can't do this. And the third thing is manifestation. I like to manifest where I want to be. If you're not going to manifest where you want to go or have any dreams of where you want to go, you're going to end up anywhere. So manifest daily, see yourself in a position where you want to be, see it, give appreciation for that as if it had already happened. And those are just like my tactics I do every day to kind of keep my mental health going. Also, volunteering is great for mental health. Giving back to those that are in need, you can never go wrong, and definitely gives you great purpose. But yeah, that's all I got, guys.
Thank you, Dustin. That was awesome. And everyone should check out on Instagram, especially if you're in Chicago. It's Guaranteed Karma. It's something Dustin just started. So it's really amazing. I've seen some cool stuff. And a lot's coming out. But I agree with what you were saying. I actually this week started with manifesting and journaling and meditating. I've never really done any of that, and I've been doing it every single day, and it's really helped. So
yeah,
thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think Kemi, you're up.
Hi, so I'm Kemi. I guess just speaking about race and mental health, I think a lot of times, I've been trying to figure out a way to put this, but a lot of times it's easy for people who aren't part of a particular race to not be able to empathize with people of another race. So a lot of gaslighting is done, or at least that's how I sometimes like take things like, if someone else hasn't experienced something, then it's like, that's not the way that the world is. So like, you're just seeing it like that because like, that's your opinion. And it's like, you know, everyone has their own different experiences and like the different nuances that bring you to who you are. Like everyone is kind of a product of their experiences. So I think that for me has been the hardest thing. Like, I don't know if everyone's like familiar with the show that I was on, but that like more recently has been brought to the forefront for me. And I think a lot of times when you go through like trying situations, whether it be like, you know, racial issues or mental health in general, or just even like a breakup or something, it teaches you a lot about who you are and how you handle yourself in like high pressure situations. So I think Kwanzi mentioned this, like a lot of time you have to have like a positive attitude. And then Josh mentioned, you know, it's not always so easy. And I do think that Josh and probably Dustin can speak to, you know, when you, and Zach, when you're put in the spotlight, or, you know, just going on reality TV in general, like a lot of people like look for things that are wrong with you, or like look for reasons or ways to like kind of tear you down. And it's hard sometimes to always be positive, even if you're trying to. Like, it's impossible, you know, to be positive. Like if you read like maybe like 1,000 positive things about you, about yourself online, and then you see that one negative comment, it's like, wait, that's not even true. Like, and then you're kind of just trying to prove them wrong about why that's not true. And I think like as far as reality TV goes, like demographic has a lot to do with it, because Big Brother and also The Bachelor, like the demographic isn't like heavily, I guess, diverse. So I think a lot of people haven't experienced being around people of different races sometimes. So then it's kind of like, I think it's like not confirmation, but like motivated reasoning. Like you're looking for something that justifies like the pre-existing stereotype that you have in your head for some of these contestants on reality TV. So something very, very small like turns into something huge. Whereas if it's someone who might have looked like you, it might not have been what you thought about. So I think for me that's been like the biggest thing in these past 2 years. Like it's hard to kind of empathize with someone who isn't empathizing with you. Yeah. But trying to stay positive. Always.
Thank you.
Sometimes it's hard to stay positive because when you're Black in the United States, you're beaten down from childhood all the way up to adulthood. The men, we're not as smart. The women are not as pretty. Because there's a there is a blueprint of the way you're supposed to look. It's a blueprint of the way that you're supposed to think, and a lot of times we don't fit that, so we're categorized as not smart, not pretty, and stuff like this. I mean, I've heard this all the time. Oh, she's a pretty Black woman. In other words, she's pretty for a Black woman. She's not pretty, but she's pretty for a Black woman. So that kind of beats you down when you hear this all the time. It's not like a every other day thing. It's just a constant drumbeat. And that drumbeat, gets you sometimes.
Yeah, and I do think that we have come a long way in society, like just even in like employment. So I know a lot of times, like when Twitter was first starting, social media managers or whatever they called it back in like 2008 would kind of see what was trending on Twitter and take like what people were saying on Twitter and use that for their marketing campaigns, to the point that they had to create a space, like create a job for that. And a lot of the content that would be used on Twitter would be from like minority groups, just like kind of playing around. Like, for example, there's this song by Meg Thee Stallion where she's like, I can't talk right now, I'm doing hot girl shit. And hotels.com used that in one of their campaigns. And so they're doing like hot, like hotel girl shit. And it, for me, I feel like a lot of times it's like you're not given the, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. Like you're not given the credit for like what you do. Like there are different types of learning or like different types of like intelligence. And like if you're more intelligent in a creative nature, I think it's just recently in the past like maybe half to decade that's being like appreciated and you can like monetize it. And that's really with the advent of social media, because back maybe 10 years ago you weren't really making money from just being funny or like being creative or like being artistic. Like you had to be like, you know, book smart, and try to use that as a way to kind of finance your life. Whereas now, you know, if someone steals my tweet and tries to make some money off it, I'm going to make money too. I'm going to find a way to. So I do think, you know, we have progressed a lot as a society, but like we obviously still have a far way to go.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I think you're right. And I don't know if this is because of who I am, because I'm white and that's just my ideas, but it's like I wish we didn't have to say like our first Black bachelor. I wish we just had him because we like him. Like I feel like you shouldn't have to be called out. It should be we like Matt James or we want Kemi or we want, but maybe that's just how I grew up and maybe I'm wrong and I want to learn. But I feel that shouldn't have to be. Like you guys should just be on the show because of who you are.
Which is ironic, right? Because when you apply for these shows, you know, I'm sorry, I jumped into this. My name is Devontae. I'm 26, Black, gay. That's just something you just said kind of just like triggered me. Because yeah, you know, people have these, you know, these ideas and dreams of applying for these shows and they say, be yourself. But it's kind of like, you know, what Trey, I think his name was Trey earlier. We're beaten down and like conditioned from such a early age. I feel like even at my 26, you know, years of age, I'm still learning about myself every day. And it's gotten to a point for me personally, where it's like, yeah, I'm supposed to remain positive. And yeah, I'm learning how to cope with all these things. But it's just like, I've gotten to a point where I feel like all of what I'm saying or what Black Americans are going through is just falling on deaf ears. It's like, we've been doing this and going through this for so long. Like I feel like this year and this past year, I've been living in the twilight zone. Like I have corporations on Twitter in March and just deciding to care about Black lives all of a sudden. Granted, they do this every year, February, but it's just like, I'm getting to a point where I feel like, okay, corporations aren't listening. I have peers that may or may not understand it. It's just, I've gotten to a point where I feel like, it's like, what is it worth speaking for? I feel like I've gotten to a point where I need to be on guard and I need to defend myself. And that's just what it is. And that's what it's going to be. I know that's like not a positive outlook, but that's just my perspective and what I've noticed lately, just upon hearing everything.
And it's not always going to be positive. So thank you for sharing that, because that is stuff we need to hear. I think unfortunately, especially right now, life's just really stressful, and it's stressful for all different, like for different groups, for different people. So these honest conversations are exactly what we need. I want to just say one thing that I kind of understand with the empathy, and I don't want to take away from anything, but I get the empathy part where it can be hard for people to understand what they don't go through. Like for me, I have chronic pain. It's a different group, a different topic, but there are people around me that will gaslight me, tell me like I'm crazy, just like they've done it for you guys for the color of your skin. So I just want to say that I understand that how hard it can be. To a certain point, we're all, and I'm sorry for what you guys go through. I really, truly am.
But you know who we're fighting now? We're fighting other Black people now, because now a bunch of conservative Black people have come out and said, you guys are whining. You've got it, better than you say that you do. So we've got to fight them. And so the bigoted white person says, look at what's in this Silk and whatever their names are. Look what they're saying. Why can't you be more like them? They seem to get together, and all you're doing is bitching and moaning, and Diamond and Silk seem to know what's going on. So we're fighting our own people now as the conservative movement gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times like people expect certain people to just be grateful for the bare minimum, and then when you're not, it's an issue. And that's like minority groups as well as honestly women as well. So then being like a woman who's also a minority, like it's kind of like not a double-edged sword, but like it's like the bottom of like the barrel, I guess. Like,
what up?
I personally don't like, I feel like if I work for something and I want it and I'm trying to get it, like I'm not gonna be satisfied with like the bare minimum. Like it's just not gonna happen. Especially like everyone just has one life to live. Like everyone's just trying to be happy. So it's difficult when I saw this tweet the other day that's like, don't ask marginalized groups to unify with other groups who are actively trying to destroy them. And it's like, that's so true. Like you can't, it's like, the whole toxic positivity thing. Like you can't always just like move forward from things. Like sometimes you have to like actually address the situation to make sure that it doesn't happen again or continue to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. You're amazing, Kemi. So thank you for sharing and coming on today.
Thanks.
We are gonna do Jocasta, followed by Tian, and then we'll be able to open it up to a bigger discussion.
I have something to say.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. I have something to say.
Oh, what?
I just wanted to say that the whole thing of all this, that people have a right to go on shows and make Big Brother or the challenge and stuff like that. They should be able to do that and not be able to not get people be able to get all this hate on them with people. And they should not do that with people constantly get like hounding them, and especially with Twitter or Instagram, and not constantly hounding them, or it's with so much hate that's been going on around the world today. They should not be hating on them or nasty hating comments.
You're right. Thank you, Amy.
Exactly,
Good job, Amy.
They shouldn't get, no one should get hate, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
And
All right,
yes,
Jocasta. Oh,
sorry.
Oh, can you all hear me?
Yes, Jocasta.
yes.
Oh, great. All right. Happy triumphant Thursday, everybody. And you know what? I have enjoyed listening. Yeah, Mama J. I have enjoyed listening to each and every person this entire time. And Alexa, when you said journal, I was like, oh, shameless plug. So that means everybody needs to go and get my 5-minute daily journal, my prayer journal book that I just came out with. Is like a couple of months ago, but you can get it. Amazon, everywhere books are sold, Barnes and Noble, yay. So journal with me. Now, going into Terry, you literally were just taking that nail and hitting it on the head every single time. And because I haven't had the experience that I believe his name was Kwanzi has had, where he says, no, I haven't experienced racism. Yes, I have, you know, and just to jump into a quick story, I remember coming home from college. I was in Valdosta, Georgia, and I'm on Highway 75, main highway in Atlanta, but I was in South Georgia still during that time, headed up to home. Yay, I was excited about coming home. I got pulled over by the police. And at that time, I am old, okay, y'all? So at that time, I thought I had the hottest car on the street. I had me a Honda Prelude. I loved my Honda Prelude. And this cop tells me to get out, and I go to get out the car. Then he tells me to get back in the car. So I get back, close the door, and then he tells me to put my hands up. And this is him saying everything from his car. So I'm like, huh? So I have my hands up in the car, and then he says, get out the car. So I go to put my hand up. He said, put your hands back up. So at this point, this is what you see me doing like this, right? Then he's telling me to take the keys, put it out the window, like all of these things that I didn't understand what I've done, what was going on, anything. So finally he comes, and I'm almost to where I probably would have peed in my pants, okay? And he says, I guess he's gonna open the door, let me out. But eventually I'm out the car like this on 75, crying hysterically. And he writes me a ticket, and I asked him, sir, you know, don't you talk to me? I know I wasn't speeding, first of all, but I was so humiliated on the side of the road and not knowing what was going on. And this lasted for at least 20 minutes. The put my hands up, put my hands down. I called my parents once I was able to get myself together because he kept yelling for me to leave, pull off. And I couldn't because I was shaking. I pulled over because, you know, there were no cell phones then, back in the day. And so I pulled over at this rest stop, at the gas station, at the Shell station, called my parents, and I was telling my dad what was going on. He was telling me to hurry and get home and that he would handle it. And I knew my dad would handle it, you know? And my dad, fast forward, he did handle it. I knew that my dad would have this man's job. I knew all of this. I just needed to get to my dad. Does that make sense? I didn't know if I would get to my dad. Okay. So with that being said, yes, the man lost his job. And the guy that was in the car with him, the partner, was a rookie. And guess what he did? He told on him. He told everything that happened because he wanted to keep his job. So he told them that they were playing with me, that they thought it was funny. He was trying to prove this point, show them what you could do, type of thing. And so they were laughing as I was doing this, and then I had started shaking. They thought that they would make this mockery of this person, right? And anytime I get pulled over at any time after that, you know, it was like you didn't know what to do at this point, and I would just sit still. And, you know, hands on the wheel, sit still. Just wait till you come to my car. But there are things like that that go on that's crazy. I was in college trying to just become that scientist that I was called to be. And my teacher told me, no, I'd never be that. Why? Because I was Black. Excuse me, come again. So there are things like that that happen. And I'm here to tell you, yes, I did become that scientist. Yes, I do have my degree in biology, and I was working as a researcher at Emory University. So yes, I made those strides, but the people telling me no pushed me on. But it didn't mean that I wasn't sad. It doesn't mean that I didn't go through some heartache. It doesn't mean that I've never had therapy because it's good for you. I did. But yes, God was on my side, but I take wisdom, and you got to have wisdom to understand that you do need an out. You do have to have someone that you can speak to and speak up to, and who won't have any judgment on you. So fast forwarding to Big Brother, yes, I saw everything. I saw a couple of the producers asking me to do this and this and that. And I was like, what? I can't get on here doing this. I don't don't do that on a regular. My mom, when I get out of here, will whoop my butt. That's all I kept thinking. Are you serious right now? And I just refused to do it. So you have to stand for what you know. You have to stand for who you are. And if you know whose you are, I know that I'm a child of God. So I know that whatever you say or tell me to do, that I don't have to do anything that does not line up with him or the word. So therefore, you do have to step up and stand up, but not everybody has that positivity. Not everybody has that energy, that go get them. And we have to realize that. And it's up to us to just pour into them. So I understood what Kwanzi was saying, but not everybody has that. So listening to Kimmy, no, not everybody gets the credit they're supposed to have. That doesn't happen. And listening to you, Alexa, yes, we want to all kumbaya and we want to all get along, but we have to learn from each other. So that's why this type of panel is needed. It has to happen. But racism is there. Mental health is present. And currently, like you guys are, oh, look at this, all 36 of you. I am in school now getting my master's to become a counselor. And so, yes, that's why I agreed to be on your panel, because I said, you know what? I'm forever going to school for something. I'll have a list of degrees at the end of my life. But I literally like learning. So I want to be able to pour into some others who have went through what I've went through. Reality TV will break you down if you are not strong. So you can't go on there if you are weak in mind. And people may not understand what that means because it will mess with you mentally. And with Big Brother, isolation is animal behavior in science. You put people in isolation around nobody they've ever seen, have no family or anything, and they can break. We have to realize that if you come in there a little bit broken, that small crack, it will eventually get bigger and bigger. It's just like a crack for an earthquake, right? And that crack, it eventually grows and grows and grows over the years. So we have to pay attention to where we're going in life. Like reality TV may not be for you, because if you know that you're a little shaky on things, like, hey, okay, no, I may not. And you'll hear a lot of reality TV people say that I'm on Xanax or I'm on this and I'm taking this when they come out, you know, because it messes with you mentally. So we all have to pay attention to what we're taking in, whether it's things that'll help feed into racism, whether it's things that'll help feed into our depression, whether it's things that'll help break us down as a human being. You have to pay attention to what you're allowing into those gates called your ears, because if you do allow the wrong thing, they will come out wrongly out of your mouth. So thank you.
I just want to say, sister, if you're running for office, you got my vote.
I know.
I think we all
That was a
are.
good speech.
If I'm running for office, I got your vote. I'm glad to hear that.
Right here.
I love you, Jocasta. I love you.
Awesome, Jocasta.
I love you too.
Just let me know.
And that, I'm glad you said that, because that's something that my sister's right here in the corner looking like, that's something that I've already said is on a list of things for me to do in life. So running for office, yes, that was something that you will see.
I'm your communications director.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much. And look at all
thank
you. Feel free to put a link in the chat, so for anyone to get your book.
Yeah,
if anyone has anything you want people to see, feel free to, any of our speakers, put it in the chat for sure and let everyone see it. And our last speaker of the night is Tian.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm just really honored to be here amongst all of these people who are so wise and have lived life and have so many different opinions and views and experiences. And that actually, Jocasta, reminded me of a story that I had experienced where, I mean, when growing up, I was in a predominantly white community. So you know how that goes. Like my mom was always like, we're like one of 3 Black people in the Valley. And I mean, I had a lot of white friends, and a lot of them didn't understand that, like, you know, we would go out and we'd have a good time. We'd go like eat, and they'd want to stay out late. And I told them, I was like, I can't really do that. And they just like couldn't wrap it around their brain, like, as to why I couldn't do the things that they could. And I would tell them, like, hey, it's because I'm Black, and like, I don't know, like, if we go out in the woods and I'm the only Black dude there, they gonna blame me if one of y'all white people go missing. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. But also they used to call me their whitest Black friend. Like, I'm the whitest Black dude that they would ever see. And I see a lot of people smiling, being like, yeah, exactly. Like, but when a Black person speaks, I guess what they would say properly, it means that, oh, like, I have nothing to do with Black people or Black heritage, or like, I don't know what it means to be Black, right? And that, for a long time, I didn't even realize was very damaging. I almost like played into it a little bit when I was younger, being like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. Like, I don't know what it means. Like, you're right. Like, if I walked into the ghetto, I'd be shot. Like, and that's so wrong, so wrong. And this year, along with like everyone, has really opened a lot of people's eyes. And then I came out with this video on Instagram saying, like, this video is from your whitest Black friend, saying like how wrong it is and how damaging it was and how tired I was of not being recognized for being Black. And a lot of that also translates into the performance industry, where, you know, actors, I almost have to convince people to cast me in a role because they can't see a Black person being in it, you know. And that's crazy, right? Where I have to almost like just really like, hey, like, Black people have these experiences too, and it's not just, you know, one-sided. And for me, I have a white girlfriend, right? And that's another thing. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I have a white girlfriend, and she and I were at the park one time, and randomly, I kid you not, this one white dude just walks by, and he's like, that right there, that's what Dr. King fought for, and just walks off. And I'm just like, well, I understand what you mean, but why is that necessary to come up to us and say that to our face in such a way that is, it just comes off as negative, you know? And to deal with that, I had to do a lot of internal thinking about what being Black and educated means to me. And for I forget who said it, but someone who said like, you have to be yourself, and that is so important. But a lot of the time, Black people don't even recognize what their selves are, because it's been so tampered by society. And like, yeah. And when Terry said like, oh, Black isn't beautiful, or Black is dumb, we hear that all of our lives, and it takes a lot of time and energy to undo all of that learning. And I think this year, especially, a lot of people are recognizing how much unlearning they need to do. And I think that makes it a very, very important time for conversation and things like this that are just honestly detrimental to the future of culture in general. Yeah, I think that's what I got to say. And I just want to thank you all for coming here, and thank you for listening and being willing to open up to new ideas and thoughts and feelings, and as Alexa's motto, staying strong, you know?
You know, Tion, when you talk about the interracial relationships, the people I fear most are Black women, because I'll tell you a story. My wife was Black, but for whatever reason, my son came into the earth with blonde hair and blue eyes. I called him Cupid. So I took him out. I was feeding him, and these three Black women are talking, and I heard them as clear as day. You know, he's with a white bitch. So I knew they were talking about me because I was holding Cupid and everything. So my daughter comes by. She's a little chocolate brown, and so then she came up and said, "Hey, Dad," and everything. So the Black woman, like, well, maybe he's not with a white woman. Then they wanted to be my best friend. The first one, they denied saying he's with a white bitch. Then they said, "Oh, it's so great to see a Black dad out with his children and loving them and stuff like that." But I know what you said. You said, "I know he's with a white bitch." So you were killing me. But now I'm not with one, and so now I'm your best friend. And that just flipped just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Because and it's that same thing that you were talking about, how we're all almost against each other, and it's if I'm speaking metaphorically, that's exactly what the man wants, right?
Yeah, he wants us to fight. In my profession, I was a journalist. What they would do is with with so many Black people, but they would put little tidbits. They would give you they would dangle a promotion, and then they put like 3 Black people up for the promotion, but only one's going to get it. So what did we do? We started fighting each other. They put us in the pit, and we would start fighting each other for this little breadcrumb they were throwing out. So we have to watch that. We can't fight amongst ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. In like the casting room, there's only like one Black role amongst a sea of white roles, and all the same Black actors go for that one role, and we're all just like, it's my time. And it's like well, we're just tearing each other down and not like lifting each other up because there's so few. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow, you know what? I am just floored because your story is a story that needed to be spoken about and everything. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing and saying, so, well, I'm dating this white woman, and this is what we experienced, or this is what has happened. And yes, what you are doing is what the man stopped you and said, this is what Martin Luther King for. That's true. It's for all of us to get along. And I want to say this is that, yes, sometimes you will experience certain things from your own race, but you just have to just look at it as, okay, that person has not yet made it to where I am, and be comfortable in your skin. And understand that we know not everybody is going to ride or rock with us or for us. That's one thing that I know. Not everybody is going to.
Yeah, it's even crazy because like when I first started dating her, I had to like make sure that she told her parents that like I was Black. I made sure, and that's very, very sad to me, where I almost have to go to my white girlfriend and say, do your parents know that I'm Black? And say it multiple times to where she's like, why are you asking me? Because they like, they get it, but they don't, I mean, my lady absolutely told her parents right from the start when we started dating, but it's that like mentality that we have been raised and grown up with, saying that like, you can't date a white person, like their parents won't like it, and for the longest time until I finally met them, I thought like, oh man, well, I have to be extra white to be acceptable in their eyes.
Mhm.
You know, and you have to basically, I feel like that's so funny. I feel like Black people have two sides to them. You know, they have to play up that white side, and then they've got to play up that Black side. You know what I mean? And then there's somewhere in between. We all have different sides to us, and
But we shouldn't have to, though. I get what you're saying. I get you like 100%. I get what you're saying. And I feel bad that you felt like you couldn't walk into there just as you are, you know? I just come in there who you are, as who you were made. And it's because, yes, mainly society has placed that in our mind, you know, because I literally, in reality TV, you want to walk in just who you are. And then somebody, some kind of way, pulls you down. You know what I'm saying? Somebody, some kind of way. I remember coming straight out of Big Brother, going into my direct messages, and then like, you nigger, you shouldn't have been on there, nigger. Why is this nigger on here? And I was like, oh, I've been called this before. So what they didn't realize is it didn't hurt me. Okay, it just fuels my fire, making me think, what else can I do to get out to the world to understand what's unacceptable, you know? And we gotta, I see somebody said wearing a mask. Yeah, you feel like you're going and placing a mask on, and this is Jocasta over here, and oh, hi, you're getting the other Jocasta, and hey, what's up, y'all? You getting Jocasta? You know, you're like, who are you getting? You know,
yes,
and
yes.
it's just one of those things. And I remember always being the only Black kid in my classes at school. You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the reasons why a professor felt like it was okay. He could tell me that I couldn't be a scientist. You know what I'm saying? He felt like it was all right for him to say these things, because when we look around at times, if it's only you at Big Brother, you know, they cap off at about 3, okay? They're not gonna choose more than 3. And on my season, I kept saying, well, it's really just me, because the other 2, at some point, I felt like they didn't realize that they were Black. You know what I mean? And but then at I got to know them, I was like, okay, well, they do, but they're, you know, they're more so on the other side, thinking, no, we can't really get with her. You know, so it puts me out on an island by myself, and it's just me and Jesus. And people kept saying, why were you always reading your Bible and da 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 da? Heck, I didn't have nobody but him. You know, so I'm on an island by myself, thinking, how do I make it to the end, and realizing that there was no way for me to make it to the end at all. You know, like literally the odds were stacked against me. And that would have been the same with Kimmy. The odds are stacked against you, you know? And it's because people usually gravitate to what they know. So when you see, people can't be like, oh, that person is racist right there in Big Brother. You can't just all of a sudden say that, because people gravitate to what they like. Okay, who they're used to. So no, the white people didn't just make the white alliance. No, you would never think that, because no, they're just gravitating to what they're used to. And that's what people do. We segregate without even realizing we're segregating. So we have to get out of that mode where we're doing those things, you know? No, mix it up a bit. Well, in our case, we want you to mix it up a lot when it comes to the world in which we live. And people always say, this is a horrible world. And I go, no. This world is beautiful. It has beautiful landmarks. It has beautiful landforms. The people in it are the issue. And you proved the point. And you should date whoever. When I was dating, I mean, I'm going to be back on these dating streets, but we're in, you know, COVID. But years when I was dating, I dated everybody. I didn't care, because that's how I was raised. My mom never raised me, and my dad never raised me to be like, I'm not dating you because you're white. I'm not dating you because you're Hispanic, you're Asian. No, I dated everybody. Didn't matter. German, white, Black, Hispanic, Pakistani. Like, I've dated everybody. Like, it just, That was me. I was a social butterfly. So if you approached me, you know, and your standards were where I wanted them to be, of course. But that's not the world. That's how I'm raising my boys to be. But that's just not the world. It's slowly getting there. But key fact is I said slowly. Molasses. Slowly.
Yeah, Tion, let me say, I took it a step further. I married a white woman. I've been married twice. And before we started dating, I met her parents. We talked and had a good time and everything. They went to my soon-to-be wife and said, that Terry, real nice guy. We kind of liked him. So she's okay, cool. So then a few weeks later, she tells them that she's got a new boyfriend. And so they said, oh yeah, well, who is he? And she said, it's Terry. She said it was the longest pause she's ever heard. They didn't say anything. And finally, after like 20, 25 seconds, they said, oh, like that. Then they stopped talking to her. They disowned her, had nothing to do with it, didn't show up to the wedding. And she started getting stomach pains because she really loved her parents. They taught her to treat everybody the same. We're all the same. But when she decided to date me and marry me, it was different then. Now you're no longer my daughter. And so she had some, she was stressed out. She got sick because of that. She couldn't believe that her parents were like this. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, so far so good. You know, everybody's doing well, but we haven't gotten to the marriage part yet. So we'll see when the real things come out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, thank you all so much. This has been such a wonderful experience, and I can't wait to do more and see more and hear more, and Jocasta for president, and man.
Thank you guys so much. We're actually going to have a little more time, so we're going to open it up where if anyone has any questions or wants to share their own story, feel free to put your name. The chat, I don't know who was on before, so if you guys want to just start, we're actually going to start with Amy. She had something to say, but then just start putting your name and we'll call you guys. Amy, you can go. I think you're muted. Oh, there she is. Your turn, Amy.
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. You can share what you had to say.
I just wanted to say that I direct things that I do see, like on Twitter. Like I see things like on Josh's Twitter account that are very, very mean. There's a lot of things in this book. Like I've seen like there's a lot of violence that's been going on that I feel like that needs to kind of that's going on lately. Kind of it's not a. I feel like it's like a violent world. I feel like it needs to end. I feel like that there's I just feel like there's a lot of. I feel like something to be. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on. I feel like there's people hating on people. So I feel like that there's. I feel like oh my god, why is this going on? People breaking into cars and people doing stuff to hurt people, and there's a lot of people hurting on people, and why is this going on? I mean, why? And it's stuff like hurt comments or hurting people's feelings or that kind of things, or they need to stop doing that kind of stuff. And to me, I feel like they should not do that. And plus the fact, I feel like that they should really get full force on people who does that.
Thank you. You're right. It does need to end. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Amy. Mandy had a question for Terry.
Hi guys, everybody. Oh my God. Yeah, Jocasta for president. I mean, vice president. I mean, like everyone on the crew, I'm so for this. But if people aren't familiar, Terry is amazing. He just like the best talk show host, so knowledgeable. Like, I mean, the man is like a vault of just amazing knowledge. And my question, and I don't want it to be like loaded or anything, but I just want to ask kind of what your situation was working with Mike, because he's the angry white man. Like, I kind of want to ask about your kind of dynamic, because you guys were, I mean, I listened for forever, the entire time to you guys, and your dynamic was so like, it was amazing. Like the way you guys could just have, it was like a debate. It was like watching like a presidential debate or hearing a debate, like just the topics and the depth and how deep you guys went. And you stayed so, PC even about it, I guess. It was really, you guys were really powerful and really impactful. So I just kind of want to hear about that dynamic.
I think Mike didn't totally understand, but he was evolving. Mike, let me just say, Mike is the craziest driver in the world. This dude will drive 90, 95 miles an hour down the freeway and not think about it. He's only been pulled over twice in his life. Both times there were black people in the car, and the police stopped to see if he was okay. He said, yeah, these are just my friends and everything. But this dude is like driving 95 miles an hour, never getting pulled over until he's got brothers in the car. So he understood what was going on. He also understood that maybe 20 years before we did our show, you would never put a white guy with a black guy on the air and tell him, just do your thing, do a show. So he understood the limitations. He understood what was going on. And so, but he didn't totally understand because, you know, he
popped off a little bit. He's so ranty.
He wanted to believe everything was equal, that if you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you're gonna do well. But I think he found out that was not the case.
And that's what I wanted to say. I say your impact, you could tell that growth, that big brother, that dynamic you guys had was impactful. It was moving. The topics you brought up on radio, especially being in Detroit radio. I mean, like it was super impactful, especially coming from a white girl from the suburbs that, you know, and Alexa, same with you. I was raised like, we all bleed red, man. Come on. You know, like I don't get it. Like, that's just how I am. So, and one thing I just wanted to share, and this is kind of for the group, and it's just Alexa, it's kind of in your sense, and there's that deep empathy that we can't understand is Shonda Rhimes, I think, is really brilliant at bringing so much to the screen for people. I'm a big Grey's Anatomy fan. And it was an episode where Bailey and Ben, who are two of the characters, have the talk with their, I think he's like 12-year-old son, about what to do if you're approached by a police officer. And it was like a ton of bricks got poured on top of me. I was like, holy fuck, like really? And so I don't know, but my heart is so full for you guys and open, and I want to hear and I want to learn. So thank you all for sharing.
My aunt used to, you know, she kind of raised me with my grandmother. She said, treat it like a job interview. You're not going to put a shirt and tie on real quick and everything, but pretend that you're on a job interview. And she said, basically, you're trying to save your life rather than trying to get this job, you want to make sure that you see the next day. And she said, for the most part, that policeman wants to go home to his family. He wants to go home safely and everything. But I've always had this philosophy. You know, we talk about Black Lives Matter. When I was younger, I used to say Black lives don't matter. I think in a stressful situation, it is easier to snuff out the life of a Black person than it is a white person. I've always believed that. And I even go back to the media. Grew up in Detroit. The news and free press, every Monday, they used to have what I call the Negro Roundup. Every Black person that was killed that weekend, they put it in like a 10-inch story. You know, using drugs, doing like this. Then one day, white woman from Grosse Pointe goes to Detroit to buy drugs. Didn't work out right. She was murdered. That story made 1A of both newspapers. So in other words, her life was more important than the 10 to 12 brothers that got snuffed out that weekend. That's why I said, you know, that my initial thing was Black lives don't matter because we're just not as important.
And that's a damn shame.
I agree.
Yes. Couldn't say that better myself.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, both of you guys. Who's next? I believe Marcus.
I had something to say.
Oh. Somebody had something to say?
On you? Oh. I think you're good, Marcus.
Okay. I was just going to say, I understand what Jocasta and Tion was talking about, and some other people on here too, because when you grow up in a predominantly white area and you're the only, you know, minority in the classroom, you get used to it way. And, you know, with me, I grew up like that all my grade school years. And I would say at that time, I probably would have said I didn't experience any racism because I didn't think I did. I didn't know. It was normal to me. And I thought they saw me as, you know, me. But as I've gotten older, and it's been years after high school, and now some more recent things have started coming out and happening, and I see things they post on Facebook and things they say, and then if I say something, they come and they're so combative as if they are defensive, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about other people that have done things, but they feel this sort of guilt. So some people that aren't minorities, I think they need to understand that sometimes when people that are minorities are talking to you about a situation that's happened in the press or to them personally, you're not accusing them of something personally. You want them to listen and understand, but they don't have to feel any guilt for it because you know them as a friend, as an ally, and they probably haven't done anything like this, but some of the people do. Like, for instance, when I was about 10 years ago, I was driving and there was something in the street at the stoplight, and I backed up and moved to the next lane, and the light turned green. I went and drove down the street. 5 minutes later, I get pulled over. I didn't know why. I was like, well, why am I getting pulled over? I wasn't speeding. This guy gets out of the car. He's angry as he can be. His face is red. And I'm like, well, what am I getting pulled over for? I know I wasn't speeding. You were speeding. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. Like, it's nighttime. I don't know what's going on. So he goes back to his car. He spends 20 minutes back there running my license or whatever. And I'm like, I have nothing at all. I've been pulled over before, but I've gotten warnings and I've got a ticket for doing things that I was doing. But this was like, why am I being detained for 20 minutes? He comes back, he gives me a ticket for backing up without safety. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Back there, you backed up. And I say, I backed up a little bit, like not even a full car roll and over to the next lane. $276 ticket. But I got out of that. But still in all, the thing is, he just had to give me something. But I took my foot off the brake and just rolled back. The ticket was like I was doing a backwards drift or something, like in Fast and Furious. That's how it was written up. I wasn't doing that. But I'm just saying, other officers I got pulled over and I haven't gotten a ticket for things that I was doing. So it's not everybody, it's some people. And when you say something about an officer or someone else has done something, it's not everybody in general, is that particular person. And that's who we're talking about. But some people don't want to hear it. and they take offense to it. And it's not an attack on them. It's just something that's happened. Like, I can't tell you what it's like to give birth to a child. I don't know. I can't say, oh, it's not painful. I'll never know, but I can listen and I believe it, but I can't tell you anything about it, but just listen. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Marcus. Oh, I want to say one thing that I think I said it in the beginning about the hate. I was just looking it up, but the hate you give is the one I was telling you about. It's literally every single thing we've talked about. Where that if anyone hasn't seen it, I think you should. It really shows everything with police brutality. It shows a Black family having to live their life in a white neighborhood and in a Black neighborhood. So it's literally been everything we've talked. And American Son, those are two amazing movies that showcase this. And I wish more people would see it. So, but sorry, I just remembered that. So thank you guys. We're having Blanca and Mason next. And we have two more people and then we are done for the night. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, I might be all over the place because there's just been so many good like conversations that I've been like wanting to jump in and like I don't even know how to start. But basically, yeah, I agree with absolutely everything that's been said so far. I mean, as someone that comes from like my parents are immigrants. I understand that I am privileged in the sense that I can pass as white, or I guess not as dark as my sister and my mom, but even with that, there still comes difficult, like it's kind of hard to relate in that sense where, you know, people will say things not realizing that I am Hispanic. And so they'll say some very, very insensitive things. And then once, you know, I call them out on it, they're like, oh no, but that's not what I meant. And I'm like, please explain to me what you meant by that term. That should not be used ever. But, you know, I just feel like nowadays with everything that's going on, I just really hope that this isn't just a trend, that it's not just, you know, oh, we're going to have our first Black bachelor, for example. Yes, it's an amazing thing, but it should have happened ages ago. And yet we should still celebrate it. I mean, I still think, you know, yes, it's wonderful that Matt James was on, or that he's still the Bachelor. We had Tasha, I mean, I can go on about Bachelor, but that's a different thing. But I just feel like, I just really hope that it's not just a trend, this whole movement. I mean, again, this should have been happening ages ago. And I think especially like when it comes to working in like a professional setting, that is like uncovers a whole different aspect of race, of like, oh, should we talk about it? Should we not talk about it? I think we should talk about it. If it makes you uncomfortable, then there's a reason why it makes you uncomfortable. Especially with me, that I work in HR, it's kind of like a taboo subject even within HR. And in the different places that I've worked with or worked at, I've always been the only Hispanic person. I've been like the only person of color, which is unfortunate. And so usually when I bring things up, it's like, oh, well, she's just the token Hispanic girl, so of course she's going to bring it up. And it's like, no, I mean, yes, I am Hispanic, but that's not why I'm bringing it up. Like, this should have been addressed ages ago. But yeah, I understand. I can't remember who said it, but kind of like wearing a mask of like, okay, you've got your white self, and then you've got your, for me, I've got like my Mexican self, you know, but at the end of the day, like, this is who I am. I understand we're in a professional setting, but at times it's like you kind of have to behave in a certain way to get taken seriously. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about that. And also, I'm not Black, obviously. I will never understand what it is to be Black. And at the same time, where people, you know, will say, oh, you know, I empathize. And we, as a minority, and I'm including myself in the minority aspect, you know, as much as we appreciate it, I think it was Kemi, like, unless if you haven't lived it, you're not going to understand. I will never understand what it's like to be Black. I mean, as much as, you know, we see what happens in real life, I'm just not going to understand it as much as I want to. And I feel like sometimes, although like it comes with good intentions, sometimes what we need is just someone to listen. like just to listen to our experiences rather than trying to, as even though it might be well-intentioned, when someone says, oh, well, I kind of understand because like I was like the only white person in my class one time. And it's like, no, that's not the same thing. I mean, it's just, yeah, like I think sometimes it's just, you know, if we just try to listen, I think if everyone just tries to listen, then hopefully things will get better. But yeah, I think I'll end this with just saying, I hope this is not just a trend and I hope it just keeps getting better, but we'll see.
Thanks, Blanca.
Oh, wait, you know what? Alexa, the problem, I like her saying, if everyone just listen. One thing that I tell my boys is that you are supposed to listen to understand and not to respond. And the issue is that people are always listening to respond. So what I want to do is do a quick little thing. Alexa, start talking right now. So I'm trying to tell them, just start talking.
Oh.
So yeah, you
Hey
know,
guys,
I'm
how
trying.
are you?
Wait. What? Because I'm trying to and that's how it comes up. That is a firm example of what people do. And you have to listen to understand and then respond. Nobody is needing to respond if you have no idea what you're responding about. And then you find yourself talking about something that, what is he talking about? Think about the conversations you've had with people and you thought to yourself, what is she talking about? Because she never listened to understand you, or he never listened to understand you. He was waiting for the time to jump in and speak. But we all have to, and that's a takeaway for all of us on this call, on this Zoom call tonight, on this panel, is just listen to understand people and not always to respond. An action, that's just like not reacting, right? So let's just listen so that we can just understand and not jump in always having something to say.
Yeah, we need to educate ourselves. Blanca, you mentioned being Mexican. I had this conversation with this unfortunate guy. He said he didn't want to go to Miami because there's all those damn Mexicans down there. And I'm like, dude, there's no Mexicans in Miami. He said, oh, yes, there is. There's Gonzaleses. I said, they might be from South America. They might be from Venezuela. Trust me, they're not Mexicans. But my question for you is, it seems like people can tolerate Hispanics, but they hate Mexicans. Why is that? Have you figured that part out?
I'm still trying to figure it out, honestly. I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that for you. I feel like typically, I don't know, maybe it's because we're closer to America. I have no idea. Or maybe I think we've all heard it, they're going to steal our jobs. And it's like, no, I mean, our jobs are here for everyone. And, you know, I can get into that whole subject, but I still haven't understood it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I mean, even within the Hispanic community, there's racism within that. And how you were explaining, even within the Black community, there's conflict. It's the same within the Hispanic community. And I'm like, we're all Hispanic. We're all here struggling with the same thing. But yeah, no. If you find the answer to that, let me know, because I'd like to know.
Okay. Do you ever get this as a Hispanic from maybe a white person? Well, you know, you're not like the rest of them. You're one of the good ones. Because we hear that all 100%. The time. Do they do that to you?
Oh yeah, and I was gonna bring it up when Jocasta said how like sometimes people don't listen and they'll just like say something else. Like I've had someone say, like when they found out I was Mexican, and they're like, oh well, you know, you're different. They're like, for example, I have a pit bull, and pit bulls get like a really bad rap for being like a really aggressive dog. And it's like, thank you for comparing me to a dog, but no, like it's not the same thing. But yeah, no, I get the whole, I can't remember who said it. Oh, well, you speak very educated for an Hispanic, or like you speak very good English for someone that's, you know, for a Mexican. And that's like, I don't know what to tell you. We all went to the same public school that, you know, you went to. So I don't know what you expect me to say. So yeah.
All right, hear you.
Thanks, guys. I think Mason had a question.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfectly clear.
Good. Awesome. My computer's a mess, so I never know. Anyways, Marcus, first of all, I loved the analogy to like a pregnant woman. And yeah, I thought that was amazing. But anyways, my question is, so as an ally, I've noticed there are a lot of white allies that will like have good intentions, but speak over Black voices or like overstep their boundary. And white, for example, they'll make a post about Black Lives Matter and somehow make it about themselves. I've noticed that a lot. I guess my biggest question is, how can a white person show their support and be an ally without overstepping that boundary, without making it about themselves, but more so using their privilege to help more than hinder? I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Listen to us. The whole Black Lives Matter movement, I had an issue with one thing, is our problem in the Black community is a lot of times our school systems are messed up. We live in the ghetto. We don't have money. We don't have funds. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of brothers going around there. They're living in Detroit and the only jobs are in the suburbs. They can't get there. My problem is the Black Lives Matter movement started tearing down statues. And I'm not saying those statues shouldn't be down, but it took away from the real issues of we're living in poverty. We need better education. We need a better chance to be on equal footing, and tearing down that statue of George Washington is not helping me. It's not helping, somebody in the ghetto. That was my problem with that. So listen to what our problems are and try to correct the issues that the Black community is dealing with. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I want to kind of just echo what Terry's saying. Like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but at some point during the Black Lives Matter movement, Nancy Pelosi and like other politicians like were wearing like, I don't know.
Kente cloth.
Yeah, kente cloths. And it's like, I think the biggest thing is to make sure like what you're doing is substantial and like actually has an impact, and it's not like performative and like transparent. Like, for example, it's easy to see when like I work with some brands on Instagram, and they've only worked with like specifically blonde models before. And then once like Black Lives Matter started to happen back in June, then like I started getting like a whole bunch of work from like brands that would never work with me before. And it's like, to me, like, it's just so transparent, especially when you can just like scroll down and see like, here I am. And then like you have like a whole bunch of people who are like blonde and brunette under me. So I think like that's like the biggest thing, like make sure that what you're doing is like genuine and comes from like a genuine place, but then also like has a substantial impact to help the people that you're trying to help, rather than show how you've been kind of like stifled in the past.
Right. And I also think that if you follow like Black activists, watch Black television, just embrace yourself into the culture and like just learn, then you will also translate that when you have your friends or other white friends that come to you and they're like, oh, what have you seen lately? And you're like, oh, you know what? I saw The Chi the other day and it's really good. Like, you should really like go look at it, And people just, it's really starting to become a what do you call a movement where people are starting to get into more Black TV. And I think that is something that should continue and really open. I think that will continue to open people's eyes, like that thing that you had seen on Grey's Anatomy, where it'll just give other people another avenue of like, oh, and that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to open people's eyes. So that's all it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Education.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely do see a lot of performative divism. I know this one guy, and he would post all over like social media about Black Lives Matter, and then he would go around and say the N-word like outside of social media, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't talk to him.
That's good. All right, thanks guys. We're almost done. We just have a couple left. We're gonna go with Chris, followed by Adrian.
Hey everyone, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
Hi.
So I kind of want to go back to the whole mask thing, and Macy, you kind of brought up a good point, because I've noticed this a lot in workplaces where I have conversations with people about how they're mistreated in their workplace because of the color of their skin, or somebody may say something that they may not think is offensive, but you know it's offensive because it directly impacts yourself mentally from a standpoint of, okay, they may not think it's offensive, but you think it's offensive because you are somebody that's Black, gets called this particular thing. Like, for instance, kind of going back to what Bianca said about you're one of the good Mexicans, you're one of the good Hispanics. This happens quite a bit in the workplace of African Americans too. And kind of going back to Mason's point, I think, and what has already been said here, if you really want to impact change, the first thing you need to do is really listen. And that doesn't just go for outside of work, that also goes for inside the work, listening to your coworkers all the time. I know managers sometimes come to me and ask me for advice on, hey, I have a particular question, would you mind answering it? And me, I'm open to having those conversations with people, not everybody, but I know that I rather educate than for them to go and experience it for themselves and do something. And then next thing you know, they come back and been deemed a racist or anything like that without either not listening to one of us, listening to somebody at work that's maybe not of their race, talk on a certain issue and getting their perspective, which, by the way, in my opinion, empathy is a big thing that you need to be doing in all this too. For anybody that is an ally, is making sure that you put yourself in the other people's shoes, but also making sure that you educate and ask those questions before you go and try it. And then, of course, continue to educate yourself too. And I'm really glad that people on the call have brought that up, because that's something that is always missed when it comes to trying to bring diversity, not just diversity in the workplace, but also giving a safe space for African Americans to express themselves.
Thank you, Chris.
Terry, I think
Black
Terry.
people must do is we can't, when a white person asks a question, we can't shut them out and just say, this dumb white person doesn't know what's going on. They're trying to help. They're trying to educate themselves. But what we do a lot of times is we shut them out a lot of times. Okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but you have the opportunity to make this person better educated. So do it instead of saying, okay, this dumb white boy, blah, blah, because we do that. You know, we got that. So we got to put that down and start. If somebody really wants to know something, we need to embrace them.
Yeah. And one of the things I put in the chat is active listening and appointment. Active listening is a two-way street. You can't just, like what was already said, react. You got to listen and then ask the questions. You got to do it from a good place. So I really like that you brought that up, Terry, because when I think about active listening, just communication in general, it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. You're right. And I love that. Thank you. We are doing our last two. It'll be Adrian followed by Harry, and then we will be off for the night. Before we have our last two, I just want to say thank you guys once again. This has been an incredible night. I'm so thankful for all of our speakers and all of you guys for coming on and being open. We so appreciate it. And our next one will be a month from today, actually, March 4th. And it'll all be all about mental health and chronic pain. So look out for an email from that. But now it's Adrian followed by Harry. So thanks, guys. I think you're muted, Adrian. Oh. Adrian, you there? You might be, oh. Let's do Harry, and then, because I think Mason might be frozen, or Adrian might be frozen. So Harry, if you're still on.
All right, thank you. Now, talking about blacks and whites, well, I remember the past during the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., even if it's not his birthday. Yeah, I remember in his life, blacks and whites didn't get along. Like the whites wanted to kill the blacks. And they threatened to kill Martin and his family. I mean the whites. Oh, and I remember during that, before that, black woman named Rosa Parks was coming home from work in the bus. A white man told her to get up from her seat so he could sit down, and she said no, and she was arrested. When the blacks heard about it, it made them angry that they decided not to ride the buses until they could sit anywhere they wanted. And for the biggest number of days, I can't count, the blacks walked to work, school, more in all kinds of weather. And my last part to say about it is, one day Martin Luther King was killed by a white guy named James Earl Ray. With that, I bet the whites learned a lesson about blacks. And that's the past of Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Yeah, Harry, I would tell you, if you ever go to Memphis, you have to go to the museum that they made where Martin Luther King was assassinated. It's very powerful. You can walk the balcony where he was murdered. They've got the platform where the assassin shot Martin Luther King, and it's one of the most powerful things that I've ever been to, going through that whole thing. It's pretty extensive too. So I would recommend, if you're ever in Memphis, that you need to do that. It's eye-opening and it changes you.
But Terry, where exactly is this museum?
The museum is a mile west of downtown Memphis. So the Lorraine Hotel, you can walk it. And it's just like a big open, it's like two open fields. And if you walk across both of them, you'll run into some areas that were where the black bars and restaurants were, because we weren't allowed to go downtown then. So they had like a little section where there was black motels and hotels, black restaurants and black bars. And that's where he was assassinated. So you can make that walk. It's about a mile. And it was very powerful for me to do that.
Thanks, but I don't live where the museum lives.